Sexual abuse victims who say they were targeted by clergy members in the Archdiocese of Baltimore now say the church is trying to get around the law. And that's where we begin. When the state abolished the statute of limitations for sexual abuse victims last year, it opened the door for anyone who was victimized by the church at any time to file a lawsuit. Now a federal court is imposing a deadline that's rapidly approaching. Fox 45's Jeff Abel explains the new deadline and why victims say it could keep others from coming forward. Jeff?
Well, when the legislature abolished the statute of limitations for sexual abuse victims, a flood of lawsuits came into the Catholic Church. Now, assault victims are facing a new deadline and a new set of problems.
I was terrified. You know, he was someone that everyone loved.
Denise Adams spent years living with a painful secret, knowing that a pillar of her Catholic Church was also her abuser.
I see him walking down the street, and then I see him reach down, and a little girl ran up to him, and he picked her up and hugged him, and I just, like, my heart sank because I thought, oh my gosh, he's still here. He could be hurting that little girl for all I know. He could be hurting anyone.
Her story is one of hundreds outlined in this Attorney General's report investigating sexual abuse in Baltimore's Archdiocese. The report prompted the General Assembly last year to abolish the statute of limitations for assault victims, allowing sexual abuse victims to file civil suits regardless of when the abuse took place. But just hours before the new law was set to take effect, Baltimore's Archdiocese announced it's filing for bankruptcy.
Staggering legal fees and large settlements or jury awards for a few victim survivors would have quickly depleted our financial resources.
The filing means the federal bankruptcy court will now oversee the finances at the Archdiocese, and it also means survivors of abuse now have a May 31st deadline to come forward with claims against the church.
Archdiocese of Baltimore did something that is very true to form, which is let's run out and file for bankruptcy, and let's put a deadline on when people can come forward.
And all the good that the legislature has done and all the good that the Attorney General's office report has done for victims has sort of been thwarted by this filing for bankruptcy.
Attorney Michael Belsky represents dozens of abuse victims.
And they know that they're not alone.
And believes other victims may not be aware of the approaching deadline.
And once that deadline passes for anybody harmed within the Archdiocese, that's it. That's all she wrote.
For attorney Sarah Klein, the level of abuse in the Archdiocese seems frighteningly familiar.
Yeah.
As a young gymnast in Michigan, she suffered years of abuse by former USA gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar. She says the obstacles she faced in Michigan seem all too similar to the ones church victims face in Baltimore.
When women started coming forward, when the first civil lawsuits were filed, the community did what's very common in these cases. They rally around the perpetrator. They say, he could never hurt a fly. No way, I support him.
But as the volume grows louder, victims grow concerned that more survivors who fear coming forward could soon be silenced for good.
Having people say, oh, this happened and it shouldn't have happened to you, is a really, really big deal.
Attorneys tell us tonight that if assault victims don't have their claims filed against the church by May 31st, they will not be able to claim ever again. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.